Humans have been living in the eastern hemisphere, especially Africa, for millions of years. In the western hemisphere, North and South America, humans have been here only for thousands of years. But even then, uh, that's many thousands of years before Columbus ever came. So there's a very long period of what's called North American prehistory when Americans were here, the first Americans. Now, the question we should consider is how they got here. Well, today we have the Bering Strait, which separates Asia from North America or Russia from Alaska. But during the last ice age, the ocean levels were considerably lower because so much of the ocean's water was taken up with ice, and land was exposed. You know, we often think of the Earth as being 70% water on its surface, but another way to think of it is that the Earth is 100% land. It's just that at the moment, 70% of it is covered with water. Well, that has not always been true. During the Ice Age, large areas that are now underwater were exposed. And the theory is that humans followed animals in hunting across this land bridge, which was a good 1,000 miles wide, and they became the first Americans. You can see an animation of how this land bridge uh, evolved over time and disappeared in more recent times at this YouTube site. Now, how did Americans get here? Well, as I said, the most common theory is that they crossed from Russia into Alaska. But that's not the only theory. This is hotly debated among scholars. There is evidence that some peoples came in boats along the west coast of North America, and they came at different times. So we don't know with precision who came, when they came, and how many different ways they came. So this is very much a matter that's open to debate and further scholarship. Um, One of the things that is really striking about North American prehistory is the diversity of peoples who were here. The legend on this map gives you some idea of how much variety there was, how many different peoples were here. But there was a tremendous amount of trade that went on in some cases over very long distances. But it's important to realize that there was no consciousness of Native Americans or Indians. They didn't think of themselves that way. They thought of themselves as Cherokee or Chickasaw or Menominee or Narragansett or any number of other tribes. And when Europeans came, they were simply new tribes, and they didn't necessarily oppose Europeans or ally with Europeans. They were simply another group of people who may or may not help them in dealing with other tribes that may or may not have been a threat. Um, One of the most interesting sites for Native American prehistory is Cahokia. It's near present-day East St. Louis, Illinois, which is right across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, Missouri today. Um, Cahokia was the largest city in the present-day United States for a very long time. It goes back to around 1200 AD, and at that time it had tens of thousands of people. If you look at current American cities, none of them surpass the population of Cahokia until around 1820. And then it was cities like New York and Philadelphia. This was a major city. Now you can visit there today, and this is a recent photograph. This mound still exists. This was the centerpiece of the city of Cahokia. for a long time, a lot of Anglo-Americans didn't think that it was possible that these earlier peoples could have built this. They sometimes even came up with outlandish theories like space aliens did it. But in fact, these mounds were built by Native Americans. Their civilization was sophisticated and advanced. Um, we only have time in this course for a very brief sampling of some of the diversity of Native American cultures. One of them is in Mesa Verde National Park in southwestern Colorado. These are cliff dwellings built in the 13th century AD by the Anasazi, long before Columbus ever showed up. Now, one of the most hotly debated questions about uh, Native American prehistory, prehistory meaning before written records, is how many people were here. Uh, a couple of generations ago, let's say in the 1950s, the conventional wisdom was that throughout the entire hemisphere there might have been 10 million people, and maybe 1 to 2 million of these were in North America. Well, no scholars today believe that. There's wide agreement that the numbers are vastly higher than that. How much higher is a matter of debate. These numbers that I'm displaying here estimate a total of around 55 million people, but there are estimates that range to twice that many, more than 100 million. Now, why is this question so important? Because if these numbers were that high, then what we have here is the greatest biological disaster in human history. What happened to these people? They died. And they died of disease because they didn't have immunities to the diseases such as smallpox that were brought by Europeans. Europeans, for their part, had very little knowledge of the Western Hemisphere for a very long time. Here you have New France listed on the map, New Spain listed on the map. So this was obviously after a great deal of settlement and colonization, and yet you can see here that the shape of the continents is extremely distorted. This was the uniting of 4 different continents: North America, South America, Europe, and Africa. Europe came to dominate the other 3, very much to their detriment. Uh, the consequence for most residents of North and South America was death. And the consequence for millions of Africans who were brought here was slavery and very often premature death as well. So this is the situation that surrounded the coming of Europeans to the Western Hemisphere.